Here we go. Good morning. I'm Sister Pam Beal, and Father Matthew Colle is with me here this morning. Father Matt is the Associate Pastor of St. Francis of Assisi Parish here in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. And I've invited him to join me for this interview as part of our celebration of National Vocation Awareness Week. This is an annual week-long celebration in the Catholic Church dedicated to promoting vocations to the consecrated life, priesthood, and diaconate through prayer. It's also a time for us to renew our prayers and support for those who are considering one of these particular vocations. So as we begin, Father Matt, I'm wondering if you could share with us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Wow. I wasn't the most creative, I would say, but my parents were farmers. My dad grew up on a dairy farm, and in my lifetime, we had beef, cattle, and sheep on the farm. My mom was the shepherd, and dad was the cattleman. So I suppose I wanted to be a farmer.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Didn't want to be a fireman or a truck driver at all, huh?
No.
Okay. So how did you know that God was calling you to priesthood?
Wow. I experienced the call to the priesthood when I was in grad school, so not until I was 23 years old.
Okay.
And I was in the church across the street from the University of Idaho campus. I had signed up for adoration every Wednesday. I had never really done it before, so I didn't really know what it was. But I think it was the second Wednesday I was there for adoration. I had this experience. Now I describe it as I experienced the indwelling of the Trinity. God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, God who is love. I felt this love dwelling in the depths of my heart. It was just this profound experience. And with that experience of the reality of God's love, I had this like instant desire to share that love with others. And then this thought, which had been proposed to me by my pastor as a grade schooler, this thought of being a priest, which I never thought was feasible because I wasn't mature enough, I wasn't holy enough. All at once, like there was this great clarity that I don't need to make myself holy enough. God is going to make me holy enough to be a priest. And so that was the moment where I was like, wow, this, like, the priesthood is actually, it's possible for me.
So then take it one step farther. Then how did you make that journey into the seminary? How did you come to enter the seminary then in preparation for priesthood?
Yeah, so it ended up being a semi-long journey. I'm someone who needs to really dwell on things and contemplate and discern. I'm not a fast mover. And so I finished up that year, which was my last year of grad school. I got a master's degree in animal science with a focus in meat animals. And then the next year I spent teaching agriculture, animal husbandry in Ghana, Africa, and in a small farming community in Ghana, West Africa. And then it was while I was there for, when I had signed up for this program and went there, I had known that I was seriously discerning the priesthood. I hadn't really told anyone about it. Not saying that that's the best option, but that's the way I went about it. And but it was after being in Ghana, thinking getting away from America, the culture, just our fast-paced culture. I was like, I think that'll be good. I also felt called to help the people there with my agriculture knowledge. And so after I was in Ghana for like 3 months, I remember making a good confession, and then within a week, I then told my mom. It was actually around this time. It was around Thanksgiving. I think it was around it might have been Thanksgiving Day. But I was talking to my mom and my brother on the phone, and I said, for the first time, I said out loud, I think I'm called to be a priest. And then it was funny. Then my mom, because Father Mark Malezova, who's also a priest of our diocese, we were in school and Catholic grade school together, and even high school together for a year. He was 3 years older than me, but he had by this point entered the seminary, and I think he was a couple of years away from priesthood. So my mom is friends with the mom of Father Mark Malezova, and so she knew like the process of entering, what it took. And so I had told my mom this, and it was either that night or the next day. She had emailed our vocation director, Father Schuster at the time, and yeah, it was funny because Father Schuster said later on, he's like, I get a lot of moms emailing me saying their son wants to be a priest, but I got to hear it from them. So like, why is this 23-year-old's mom or 24-year-old's mom emailing me that her son wants to be a priest? But then, so I sent the email, made the connection, had a few, at that time it was Skype, had a few Skype calls with Father Schuster. And then he encouraged me in my pursuit of the priesthood and sent me the application. And so I applied when I was overseas in Ghana. And then I entered that fall.
Wow, what a journey. Not what I would say your typical path to the seminary at all. So in that process, Father Matt, do you have a mentor or some great support person in your life that you talked to in that as you made that journey to seminary? Or was it just the people around you at that time?
Well, so once I made it more public about the seminary, like I said, Father Schuster, I would have chats with him on Skype, and he would mentor me some. He got me praying the breviary at least a few of the hours.
Okay.
Each day. I know I started out because I had already had my morning prayer routine and my evening prayer routine, and so I prayed the first few hours of the breviary. I started praying was midday, so around noon, and then the night prayer. And he gave me a hard time. He's like, those are the shortest ones. But yeah, so then I think I started praying morning prayer and evening prayer. But he also sent me some books. He mailed some books, which that probably took months. I forget exactly how long it took to get there, but he mailed me some books to save 1,000 souls, like a book for discernment on diocesan priesthood. And I think the other one was Called to be Holy or Priest for the Third Millennium. Either way, by a book by Cardinal Dolan that's really, really impactful. But before that, actually, the priest at the University of Idaho, he was very impactful for me. And just his witness of my priest growing up too, Father Suess in Luxemburg, was a very holy witness, and I really looked up to him. But I didn't connect. He seemed just like totally other, he was so holy that I was just young at the time, so I couldn't see myself being a priest. But then being at the University of Idaho, the priest was a bit younger. He really engaged with the students well, gave great homilies, was just very joyful. And he invited myself and other young men who were just pursuing their call to holiness in life. I didn't know I was pursuing it at the time, perhaps, but no, I think I did when I had that prayer experience. But anyway, so he invited us, and that was the first time I shared that I was I was open to the priesthood, that I thought I could be called. So Father Schuster, over Skype in Ghana, Father Caleb Vogel when I was at the University of Idaho, and then Father Suess for planting the seed when I was young, saying, I think you're going to be a priest, or I think you'd make a good priest, something along those lines.
And then along that journey, any doubts at all? Did you have any second thoughts that, well, maybe God isn't calling you, or did you just, all those people that surrounded you with support were just what you needed to just continue on that path?
Yeah. So I can tell you that from like the middle of the school year, my last year at the University of Idaho, my last year of grad school, from that point, like all the way through that half year finishing my grad degree, and then the next year in Ghana was like this great, I just felt this great wave of consolation throughout all of it. Just like very, very at peace. Like I'm pursuing the Lord's will and I'm doing it. But interestingly enough, like within 2 weeks of being at seminary, for me, yeah, that was the moment of, that was desolation. There was all this buildup and excitement, and then seminary came, and I did not feel it anymore. And in seminary you have mentors everywhere. You have to meet with a spiritual director once a month, and but I think because I was older and I had experience, just a little bit of experience dating and pursuing a career, just with my studies, I knew, like I could see, I could, those memories were close enough that I was like, I know the grass is not greener on the other side. And so I really never doubted my vocation. There were certainly times where the Lord pulled away some of the consolation, the warm and fuzzy feeling that I had pursuing it. But I never actually, from the moment I had that prayer experience, and started along that path of pursuing the priesthood. I've never thought that there was another call for me.
That's great. So of all the things that you do now as a priest, what do you love the most?
What do I love the most? Celebrating the Mass.
Okay.
Seeing the families in the pews, being at the altar, distributing the Eucharist, and preaching the gospel. I love preaching the gospel. And as an extension of that, then I just love being with the people, whether it's celebrating baptisms, funerals, playing recess at the elementary school, being in the classroom at the high school occasionally. It's all of it.
And so the other side of the coin, what would you say is the hardest part of being a priest?
The hardest part.
The hardest part is people are looking at priesthood. What would you say?
Yeah. To be honest, I don't think I've experienced it yet.
And how many years have you been ordained, Father Matt?
Just a year and 4 months.
Okay. All right. So
I think that the hardest part will be moving.
Okay.
Like as I get to know families and get to be part of their lives, and then to like realizing that at some point I'll have to move. I mean, I suppose in theory, in a few years, Father Jason could be named pastor at St. Francis of Assisi. And then, I don't know, 10 years after that, I could be named pastor and just be associated the whole way. But realistically, that may not happen. So I think that will be the toughest part.
Okay. If you get connected with people, isn't that always the hardest to leave and say goodbye? Yeah. So one last question before we close today. What advice would you give to young people who are discerning their vocation today? Any advice that you would give them?
Yeah, the first advice I would say is pursue the vocation that we all share first, which is the vocation to holiness, the vocation to love God, which means you gotta spend time with him, to pray daily. And that looks different for everyone. It might just be like a morning offering in the morning, just like offering your day to God, asking him to be present with you, in the, like looking ahead to your schedule, knowing what's coming, just to invite him into the day. And then at the end of the day, it might look like a decade of the rosary or an Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory Be. just to thank God for the day and to reflect on those ways maybe that you saw him in the day, but then also the ways that you turned away and asked for forgiveness. But I would say, yeah, to live out that call to holiness, to love God, have a relationship with him, and then to love neighbor, and each day pursue those two greatest commandments. And then I think that out of someone's pursuit of holiness, their specific vocation in the way that God's calling them to live that call to love, to holiness, to be saints, I think God will make it clear. God will make it clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Father Matt, for taking the time to share your insights as well as your own vocation with all of us. And thank you for all you do in serving God and his people. I'm sure there are many people whose lives you touch every day that are grateful for your presence and for saying yes to God's call to the priesthood. Thank you so much for being with us today, and may God continue to bless and energize the good work he is doing through you every day. And thanks to all of you who took the time to watch this interview. I hope you will continue to pray for vocations to the priesthood and consecrated life, not only during this Vocation Awareness Week, but every day of the year.
Thank you, Sister Pam.